the players that really stood out to you on the offensive side of the ball, the winners, you would say.
Yeah, JP knows where I'm going to start here.
Of course.
It's a tight end, and this guy, Theo Johnson, he's a Penn State guy. I know JP doesn't like that because it was one of his rivals in the Big Ten.
4-0 against Penn State.
This guy, 6'6", 260 pounds, JP. He's not supposed to be able to run fast.
No.
He ran a 4.57. He had a 40-inch vertical, a 10.5 broad jump, a 1.55 10-yard dash. That's the same as Kyle Pitts. He had a 7.15 three-cone drill, so this guy can move. He had a great Senior Bowl, fell in love with him out there, and continued to impress at the Combine. I think this guy's a second-round pick now. Some people were saying he was day 3.
Yep.
So he's raised all the way up there. And then my next guy, A.D. Mitchell. I know Xavier Worthy got all the hype for the 4.21, breaking the record. But A.D. Mitchell is 4 inches taller and 44 pounds heavier. And he ran a 4.34. He had an 11.4 broad jump and a 40-inch vertical. Okay, this guy is incredible. The way he moves, he had a lot of success during the year. So everything you saw on tape, that explosiveness, how he's able to get off the line, get off the ball, you saw that at the Combine. A 4.34 at 210 pounds? That's not normal. So those are my 2 winners.
Yeah, I mean, out of wide receivers to run that fast at 6'2" and 205 plus, it's him and DK Metcalf, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that is rare air, and I like him better than I like Worthy to that point. But on the defensive side of the ball, the winners for me, Terrion Arnold, who's a cornerback, he had a phenomenal day. And I know people are going to look at his 40 and they're going to say, well, it wasn't blazing fast. It was a 4.5, and they're like, is it great? Watch the drills, okay? Because this dude looked like a bona fide cornerback when it was time to go through the drills. He moves very fluidly, knows how to flip his hips, hands were natural, all of the things that you need to actually play football. It confirms the tape that we saw. And then the other one for me is Braden Fisk, right? And this was just like strictly based off the numbers because he's a little bit of a different guy playing on the interior of the defensive line because he doesn't have extreme length, and he's a guy who's not going to be necessarily like a gap eater up front, but he's super twitched up, a guy who can really move. The movement skills off the charts. And I like to think of interior defensive linemen not only in this day and age as guys who can take on double teams. I need somebody who can get me some pass rush from the inside. And this is a guy who proved that he's got the twitchy freak of nature.
And he can chase down a quarterback.
Yes, this is what you want.
All right, so from the guys that stood out in a good way, let's transition to the guys that stood out in a bad way, the losers of the Combine, if you will. Let's start on the offensive side.
I'm going to stay at tight end. And this guy didn't have an awful Combine, but just based off of what I was expecting him to do, his name's Jatavian Sanders. He is a tight end from Texas. So he ran a 4.69, which isn't terrible, a 4.32 three-cone drill, weighed in a little light at 245 pounds, a 1.59 10-yard split. But the reason I am having him falling is because what all the other tight ends did. And what he was supposed to be the number 2 tight end on the draft board, and I see him falling all the way to 4 or 5 after this because you had guys like Cade Stover, Theo Johnson, Ben Sinnott, Jaheim Bell, Jared Wiley, who had great days and really outshined Jatavian Sanders. I still think he can be a day 2 pick, but it's going to be later in that day 2 area than opposed to early in that day 2.
Yeah, I look at Jatavian. He was a guy that I expected to move differently than what we saw on display. And, like, even through the blocking drills, he's not a very strong guy. Like, blocking is not going to be his thing, so you got to be super explosive on the track. I like what you said. Cade Stover, I think, is going to be a steal. And the same thing with Jaheim Bell over there at the tight end position. If I was to give you a couple of losers on the defensive side, I got to start in the Big Ten, a guy that I covered in Kalen King. He was a cornerback for Penn State. Numbers were bad when it came to the 40. He ran a 4.61, which is not fast enough for a cornerback. And the numbers are not everything. I mentioned with Terrion Arnold, it wasn't like the fastest 40 we saw from the corners, but it confirmed the tape that he can do all the cornerback things. This dude was supposed to be one of the best corners in college football last year, and he got cooked on numerous occasions. And sometimes that happens. Dudes play through injuries and go through something. So you go to the Combine and prove that you can move around. Yeah. He did not prove that at all, so stock is falling. And then the other one is Braylon Trice for me. He was listed at like 270 on the roster for Washington. He weighed in at 245. He ran a 4.7 plus in the 40. Was not the athlete that he needed to be if he was going to be 245.
It's funny that you say that about Kalen King, though, because I do remember covering Penn State last season. Was like the expectations for him, but we saw glimpses like here and there, but there was never that consistent dominance that we were expecting to see from him. So that's an interesting point that you just made there.
Yeah, and
but you have one more guy.
Yeah, staying in the Big Ten. I know we're a Big Ten family here. Isaiah Williams from Illinois, the wide receiver. I watched a lot of U of I. I'm a U of I fan. I thought this kid was fast, and he came in at 5'9". He ran a 4.63 40. And I mean, for a guy that I thought could maybe sneak up into day 2, but was for sure a day 3 guy, he may have played himself out of being drafted and might have to take the undrafted free agent route, which is unfortunate. Still got a chance there, so it's not over for him. Still got pro day. Hopefully he can improve on that come pro day, and the interviews there and the running there. But he's going to really need to show something to these scouts that he's athletic enough to play receiver and get open at the next level.
This was the shame of the combine for me, and I've met Isaiah numerous times. I interviewed him at Big Ten Media Days. I think he's wonderful, and he was very productive in college. I thought he was going to be more like a Jaden Reed type of guy where he's not the biggest wide receiver, but you can use him multiple facets, jet sweeps. He's a twitchy guy, can get you some. And then I watched him run, and I said, this is not the dude that I have seen on tape. And I agree with you. People are going to ask questions. Why did he look like this? And you can't be 5'9", 180 and not be out there blazing the track. So it was really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, you got to make the most of your opportunities there. But that coaching staff, when we covered Illinois, he was the star of that offense, right? And they always felt like he was kind of underestimated as far as on a national scale here. So it's unfortunate that he maybe didn't live up to the hype.